Mary would have gotten up early in the morning to get water, and the well, the only source of water in Nazareth, was about a 10 or 15-minute walk away. It's called Mary's Well. It was a spring, and it was the only source of water in Nazareth. So they had to leave their caves in the morning. All the girls would go together, and they would walk to the water source, and they would carry big jugs of water on their head. Now, I have pictures made in Nazareth when cameras were first invented over 100 years ago. And these pictures are I just love them. They're black and white. And they show all of these girls with long dresses, bare feet. All of them have bare feet, and they all have this cloth on their head, and they have these like 2 to 4 gallon jugs, pottery jugs they carried on their heads, and they could balance them on their heads when they walked. And there's pictures I have of them over 100 years ago, and it hasn't changed since the time of Mary. So Mary would go to the well with these big jugs of water to get water for her family, and all the other girls were there too. And I think they liked going there in the morning, and in the evening they had to go back, because back in those days they didn't have Facebook and Twitter. They couldn't text each other to find out who likes who and what's going on. And did you talk to him last night? They didn't have this thing. So what you did is you got to the well, and everybody's with their water bottle. And when I get these pictures, the girls aren't filling their water bottles up. Guess what they're doing? They're all talking. It was a social communication of the day. And I think Mary was probably the most loved of all the girls because she would have been very joyful and friendly, but I don't think she would have stood out physically any different than any other girl. You wouldn't have noticed her. She didn't have a halo. The only thing that was around Mary's head was flies. And I know that because I've been there. And the flies, by the way, in the Middle East are different than the flies here, because the flies in America are polite. When the flies in America come and they go towards your eyes or your face and you swat them away, they go to somebody else. But in Israel and in the desert, when you do that, they come right back at you. They come right, and I've had them fly right up my nose. Many times when I'm making the movies, I'm giving my lines, and a fly will go right down my throat, and he's swallowed before I even know he's down he goes. You see in Africa pictures of children with flies all over their eyes. You can swat them away all you want. They come right back. And you have, over there, when Mary went to the well to get water, there's a dirt path. There's none of these bricks anywhere. There's no blacktop or sidewalk in those days. It was a dirt trail up to the water. It was dirt. And if it's the only source of water, guess what else is walking there? Not just the girls, but what else? The donkeys, the camels, the cows, the sheep. And when these animals walk along a path, they raise up their tails and leave little surprises behind as they go. Can you imagine that pathway leading to the well and back? There's a book that I have at home. It's called The Good Old Days. They were terrible. And it shows major cities when the street was all dirt and the carriages and the horses are going up and down. And the women with their long skirts were hoisting up their skirts and they go through the mud. One day, even this year when I was in Nazareth, it rained 2 or 3 inches in a day when we were there. Can you imagine? Mary goes to the well, got her jug of water, finally heads back. It's rained a couple inches since that morning and since she's coming back. And now she's walking back that dirt trail back to the cave. This is the real life of the Holy Family, of Mary, of Jesus. And we forget this, and we think about them only in spiritualized terms. But I loved Mary more when I learned and appreciated what she really experienced in life, what her life was really like. Now she comes back from the cave. She had muddy feet. She's got this jar of water. She goes in and they start cooking and cleaning and helping her mother while her father's out working. And all of a sudden, the entrance of the cave goes dark, and they can't see. It's dark in the cave. And Mary says, "Mom, something just blocked the cave. I think I'll go see who it is." And she goes out the entrance of the cave. And by the way, we have Mass right at that cave when we go to Israel, at the very place where this happened. And she goes out to see what's blocking the entrance of the cave. And this is my theory of what happened. And there, blocking the doorway of the cave, is an archangel. Have you ever seen an archangel? I have never seen an archangel. I don't think I want to see an archangel. before I get to heaven. And there's an archangel. Archangels are created to stand before God. Can you imagine the glory and the awesome beauty of an angel? And here he's come down to this cave where there's mud and there's flies. And there's a 14-year-old girl that just came in from the mud and the flies. And he comes up to her and he says, "Hail Mary," correct? No, he doesn't say Mary. If you read it, it does not say Mary. In the original language behind the English, it says, "Hail Kaharetomene." It's a big fancy Greek word. What kind of name is that for a girl? Hail Kaharetomene. It's a Greek word that means one who has been made full of grace. But it even means more than that. There are some translations of the Bible that I think are very poorly translated. They say, "Hail, highly favored ones." Highly favored, which doesn't give you the impression at all of what the angel's really saying. The word kaharetomene means, in its full definition, it has a past and a present connotation to it. It means past and present. It means one who has been made full of grace in the past and who still remains full of grace at this moment. So the angel didn't make her full of grace. She was already full of grace from the past, and she was in that state right now at this moment. What does grace mean? If she is full of grace, what does that mean? As an evangelical Protestant, I said that grace meant God's divine favor. We had an acronym for it, GRACE, G-R-A-C-E, God's riches at Christ's expense. It's a very good one. But grace is more than just an attitude of friendly favor that God has to it. Grace is more than that. It's actually the pulsing, throbbing life of God that He puts right into our souls. This is what Adam and Eve had in the garden. They had the very throbbing, pulsing, boom, boom, life of God in their souls called sanctifying grace. And Adam and Eve sinned and that grace died in them. The devil said, "If you sin, you won't die." God's a liar. What will happen is you'll learn and you'll be like God. You'll know good from evil. So go ahead and eat the apple. You won't die. And Eve fell for it and she ate the apple. And she didn't die. It made God look like a liar. She went right on living and gave it to Adam. "I didn't die. I ate the fruit. Now I'm smarter. You have some." They didn't die. But God was not a liar. Because the throbbing, pulsing life of God that was in their souls died. And their bodies followed years down the road. That's why Mary is the Immaculate Conception, because you had in the Garden of Eden one Eve who was without sin, who brought death at the tree of life. Mary is another immaculately conceived virgin who's also in a garden, who brings about life at the tree of death, at the cross. So that throbbing life of God, that's what He put in Mary's soul. The angel testified that Mary, in her soul, she was full of grace. And what is grace? It's the life of God. And if you're full of grace, that means there's nothing else in there. This says full of pure water. If it's full of pure water, that means there's no mud. There's no chemicals. There's no foreign material in here to contaminate the water because it's pure water. And if Mary is full of grace, what is the thing that kills grace? Sin! Mary is full of grace, which means there can be no sin in her. There can be nothing odious, no stench in the nostrils of God that would bring about death in Mary, because she is full of grace.